I'm Daphne Horowitz, and welcome to Leadership Live podcast. The greatest skill of leadership is growing yourself and growing future leaders around you. You can do that by developing practical leadership habits that take you from top performer to extraordinary leader, a leader that inspires people and gets results. Whether you're a first-time manager, entrepreneur, or seasoned executive, this podcast is about having the conversations that cut through the noise and focus on what matters most in your business and leadership. So, are you ready to master your mindset, inspire your team, and elevate your business? And today we have a brand new style of episode on Leadership Live podcast. We are starting to do some interviews, and I've got a special guest for the first interview, and that is David Meltzer. And the topic for today is happiness. So we are going to be looking at what is happiness, what does it mean, and also his very big mission around happiness. So lots of gems, lots of insights. We'll be exploring some happiness myths. And I don't want to give it away, but some really profound thinking around that. So just before we head on to the interview with David, and you'll hear more about David and who he is and what he does in the world, I'd like to once again mention my book that has been recently launched, Weekly Habits for Extraordinary Leaders, available on Amazon. Please head on down there and purchase a copy. It's a great gift for this time of year. Feel free to buy, or even if you want to just get a sample of it, it's available on my website at daphnehorovitz.com/weekly habits sample. Go get your sample, have a look, and really get some practical tips and insights on how to develop leadership week by week so that you can build your confidence, your impact, and of course, get great results. And with the kind of year that we've been having so far, there isn't a better time to learn more about how we can be more impactful and confident as leaders. So head on to my website, head on to Amazon and get a book. And I've got a promotion at the moment that if you buy more than 20 books, you are entitled to receive a free laser coaching session with me. So just send me your receipt and we'll set it up. And now it's time for our interview with David Meltzer on the topic of happiness. Enjoy. Welcome everybody to Leadership Live. I'm really excited to have a very special guest with us today, David Meltzer. I'm super excited to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here and really excited to discuss leadership and how it's applicable to my story to empower others.
Awesome. So I just want to say a little bit about you. So let me give an intro. David Meltzer is the co-founder of Sports One Marketing and formerly served as CEO of the renowned Leigh Steinberg Sports Entertainment agency, which I believe is the inspiration for the movie Jerry Maguire. And I think there must be a great story there, which maybe we'll get to hear, I hope. But what's fascinating to me, David, is that your life's mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. And to me, this is where I want to begin the conversation, because I don't know if you know, but my background is that I qualified as an actuary. So that's very much about calculations, mathematics, statistics, and trends and analyses and all of that. So I've got a lot of questions for you about that. The first thing I want to know is, how do you define happiness?
For me, happiness is the enjoyment of the consistent everyday, persistent without quit pursuit of your potential, your truth.
Hold on, no. Those are big words. Maybe just go back to, where did your fascination with happiness come in, and tell it to me in language that I can understand.
Yeah, no problem, but you asked me what my definition was. Not to explain it to other people. So, to me, happiness is a virus, and it's the best virus in the world. It's the only virus that can be spread by simply witnessing it. It strengthens us mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. It actually will even strengthen your immune system. So happiness will protect you. It's also at a great challenge right now, a great shortage. People are focusing on what makes them unhappy, and they're getting more of what makes them unhappy instead of understanding how this subconscious and the unconscious can achieve what they want, which should be happiness.
Great. So let's define it. How do we see it in simple language? How can you tell if someone's happy or unhappy? What do you see? What happens in their life? That's kind of what I'm looking for in terms of the definition of happiness.
Well, good. Then just ask. I'll answer whatever you have. So if you want to know that instant, it's the amount of time that you're outside of the ego-based consciousness, and now the time that you're happy. Everybody's happy a certain portion of the day.
Hold on,
let me finish. I'll just finish real quick, because it's most people, they spend much more than minutes and moments outside of happiness, right? So they allow the need to be worried and the need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry. All of these needs of the ego cause unhappiness. And those people that can stop, drop, and roll and spend their time outside of that consciousness, outside of that behavior, that portion of the time is happiness, when you're most at peace, your highest frequency.
So you've just defined happiness in terms of the absence of anxiety or fear or anger or worry.
The time that you are not in ego-based consciousness, correct. I was using those as examples in order to facilitate for people to know that peace, center, is happiness, joy. So when you are at peace, it's your highest frequency. Actually, neutral is your highest gear. And you can elevate your awareness by elevating your frequency through happiness. And so what my understanding is for happiness is that we are already healthy and happy. We create what interferes and corrodes the connection to this unbelievable source of light, love, and lessons. And so we use our free will to clear that. And we do that by identifying when we're not happy. We stop when we're not happy. We go back to center, which is why meditation is so important to me. And then we roll in the trajectory. But the requirement is you got to know what you want in order to be happy. Most people, they are searching for a why instead of their what.
Okay. So I've heard a few things in what you said. And one of the things that I heard is that you believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things I think I heard is that you believe that people spend more time in unhappiness than they do in happiness.
No, I didn't say more.
Okay.
I said, you asked me what happy was. I said the amount of time.
The amount of time?
So everybody spends a certain amount of time in ego-based consciousness. Everybody gets
what
angry.
You call the anxiousness.
Yeah, ego, right? Ego. The primal.
So ego can't be happy.
No, because the ego is a shortage, a void, and an obstacle. Fear itself can motivate you. It can get you up, get you back up, get you started, get you back started. But any fear-based emotion will suck your energy. It doesn't last. Inspiration will get you there. Motivation won't. And fear is one of the biggest soul suckers there is, because it does create the interference.
Okay. So let's go back to your story. Where did the fascination with and a kind of sense of mission around happiness come from? Tell me a story.
Sure. So when I was born in Akron, Ohio, a small town. And my mom was a single mom by the time I was 5 with 6 kids. And I was super happy. I had these wonderful siblings. I had 5 siblings, extraordinary. My mom worked 2 jobs, packed our dinner in a paper bag, but I was always happy. The only time I wasn't happy was when we had financial stress. So a car would break down, or she was worried about how she would afford.
So you would feel it. The environment at home would impact on you and your state of mind.
Yeah, I'd catch her crying. And so, for me, I, in my mind, thought, well, the only thing missing from my life is money. Money must buy happiness and love. And so from the time I was 5, I set off on a journey to make a lot of money so that I could complete my life with happiness, because the only stresses I had, worries I had, frustrations I had, anger that I had were based around money. And so at
that point, you equated happiness with financial stability or financial success.
Yes, very much so. Exactly. And unfortunately and fortunately, I ended up graduating law school, in 9 months out of law school, making my first $1 million, buying my mom a house and a car. And everything I did from the time I was 24 reinforced. Not only did I believe money bought happiness and love, but it reinforced it, because I made a lot of money, and it seemed to me as I was my mom's favorite child, that people gave me accolades and acknowledgement, and but what they really were doing were being yes people, right? I had moved from a world of scarcity, of not enough, of fear-based emotion, where I was a victim, everything was happening to me, into a world for me. And I thought I was an optimist. I would give to receive, but even giving to me was a negotiation in our trade. Even
it's interesting, if I can just stop you there for a minute, because I work with a lot of leaders, and I often hear from these leaders who do have a very full, wonderful, and blessed life. They will say, I'm happy. It's not that I'm not happy. So I think the topic and the nuance of it is really fascinating, because then how do you, I'm sure you're going to get to your part of your story where you realize that. So yeah, take us forward. I'm sure you've heard that as well, actually.
Of course. So, what I realized was, for me, that I lived in this world of just for me. And I would buy things to be happy. I'd buy more things to be happy. I'd donate money to be happy. I'd do things to impress people to be happy. I would do things to impress people I didn't even like to be happy with my money. And eventually, from the time I was 30, I had married my dream girl. I thought, even in my mind, that she had married me because I had a lot of money. I'd known her since the 4th grade. She hated me when I was young. So in my mind, it must be because I'm rich. But as time would tell, it wasn't. I've been married happily 23 years with 4 kids with her, and she's the one that saved my life. But when I started running Leigh Steinberg Sports, I ended up at 30 years old, I was CEO of the world's first smartphone. So I worked with Microsoft and Samsung on the world's first smartphone, multimillionaire. If you would have asked me if money bought happiness, I would have said absolutely. By the time I was 36,
I love that. Hold on. Can we pause there? Why? Why did you think money brought happiness at that moment? Because also we hear a lot of wealthy people saying, oh, you don't know, money doesn't buy happiness. So let's just pause there for a moment. What's in that?
Well, I think because I, in my mind, had dreamed about where I wanted to be, and I had exceeded that dream in my own mind.
You achieved amazing things.
And I was already an optimist, so I wasn't, looking for things, but things happen in a compound interest, right? Negative or positive. And so over the years, from 24 to 36, I surrounded myself with the wrong people and the wrong ideas. A lot of yes people. There's a wonderful book that says, don't take yes for an answer. Because I represented the most famous celebrities, athletes, and entertainers in America, I started to see myself from the third party view of how people, said yes to everyone and sucked up to them. And I started seeing these shortages and emptiness in my life, and I just couldn't buy anymore. I had anything I wanted, I could buy. Okay. And that's when, I started using drugs and alcohol. I was lying to my wife, all of these different things, until finally, my wife woke me up and basically said she wasn't happy. Instead of telling me how wonderful I was all the time, because she wanted all the things I could buy, she had it. I wasn't paying attention to the family. I wasn't paying attention to my business. And she basically threatened to leave me, told me to take stock in who I was and what I wanted to become. And so I started taking inventory of our values, which I previously had mentioned is a key component to happiness, of knowing your what. So I started taking inventory of my own values and realized that I needed to go back to the gratitude that gave me the perspective of who I was.
Okay. So do you believe that if your wife hadn't called it at that moment, do you believe something else would have happened? Do you believe it's got to be an external realization? Do you think that something comes from the inside?
I think there would have been other things that, may have had that significance. So her saying that would have been one thing, or her actually leaving me would have been another, or some other event something would have. And it was, like anything else, I was ready. I had other warnings. When I was 30, my dad warned me that money doesn't buy love or happiness. He gave me a jacket for my birthday and told me it had no pockets, told me, I can't take anything with you when you're gone, you'll be buried. And I yelled at him and said he was punishing me. My best friend didn't want to hang out with me anymore, told me I could lie to myself.
So I think this is such an important point here as well, because it's about, yes, you can have that external thing showing you, mirroring for you what's going on in your life, but you've got to have that internal ability to see it, take it in, and understand the lesson, or take on the lesson.
Yeah, and also carry on the lesson after you've taken it on. So I think consistency, as I gave you my longer definition that nobody understood.
No, but I didn't even understand.
Yeah. Consistency.
So how do you see happiness in 3 words?
In 3 words, how do I see happiness? The way you feel.
How do you recognize it?
The way you feel. Feeling good. Feeling good.
Feeling good?
Your eternal, yeah. The way you feel.
So how do you measure? Because your mission is to empower 1 billion people to be happy. How do you measure that? How do you know? Over. Okay. I want to know how you measure it and how you count it. Do you have a spreadsheet?
It's really easy. So, what's great about it is in my whole life, people, have laughed at me, scoffed at me, made fun of me, and yet then they applaud you. And so what I do is I put math to it. And so I know the exposure, the awareness and brand that I built, the influence that I have, that in my lifetime, I'm 52 years old, that I know for certain in my lifetime that I'll be able to empower 1,000 people like you, to empower 1,000 people, to empower 1,000 people.
So you're counting second and third degree and so on. Is that in your billion?
Right. So 1,000 times 1,000's a million times 1,000's a billion. And so my focus is primarily on not just at the surface making people happy, but teaching them to teach others and showing through 4 daily values, 5 daily practices, very pragmatic ways. Working
so how far are you at this stage? What's your number?
I don't have an exact number. So it's a minimum of 1 billion people, and I'm sure it'll be more than 1,000. So I have just in my own network, I have 652, whether they're group coaching clients or individual one-on-one clients that are in that tutelage of empowerment of happiness. So, there's at least 652 that are in my program that empowers you to empower others. So I do one-on-one business advisory coaching. I have private groups in order to facilitate that. And we're at 652 people that are in that program.
Okay, cool. So I've got a question for you. What do you think is a common myth about happiness?
So, as I wanted to continue on, so I think the common myth is that money buys happiness and love. But the other common myth is that money doesn't buy happiness or love. So the truth that I've learned is that money is very important. My motto is make a lot of money to help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. That's my motto. And you can't give what you don't receive. I think more people have a problem receiving and listening than they do giving and speaking. And so for me, what I like to do is to shift the paradigm and tell people money doesn't buy love or happiness, but it allows you to shop. And what you should focus in on is shopping for the right thing. So for me, building community centers in Africa, Chief Chancellor Junior Achievement University, empowering young entrepreneurs around the world. If you shop for the right thing, money will buy you happiness. It'll buy you.
I love that. Hold on. Let's pause there for a moment. I love that. That is so powerful. If you shop for the right thing, money will buy you happiness. That's powerful. That's powerful. Wow. What? Yeah. What did you say? Is that your own?
He said that's the lesson, right? Exactly.
That's the lesson. That is, I haven't heard that before. That's profound, David. That's profound.
Cost me over $100 million to learn that lesson. So I went bankrupt.
$100 million. $100 million of shopping for the wrong thing.
The wrong thing. Exactly.
For the wrong things. Wow.
I call that the best investment.
Okay. What is the best thing you bought? Okay, what is the worst thing you bought and the best thing you bought? I want to hear both.
Ferrari's the worst thing that I bought.
No, can't be. No, come on. As it happens, I love fast cars. I love driving.
I'll tell you why.
And
I'll tell you why.
You've got to be happy in that Ferrari.
Only 2 days I was happy is when I bought it. I was so excited for the achievement. And then the day I sold it, because I made a profit on it. But for me, the reason, everyone has their own values, right? So for me, I encourage everyone to buy a Ferrari. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to buy. But for me, I bought it for the wrong reasons, right?
Okay.
So I bought it to impress other people.
Okay. Because actually, I would love to share my story about the fast car. Okay, it's not a Ferrari, nothing close to a Ferrari, but it was my dream car. Was always a sports, an Audi TT. I don't know if you know the car. really cute little sports car. Just loved it. Also, bear in mind, I have 3 little children. I was doing the lifts, the school trips and all the kids in my car. And then you can imagine I was kind of the most popular mom in the school, I believe. And they would all want to clamber into my car. They were all, we put on the seatbelts and everything. I took the maximum allowable. But the point that I want to make is that it was a dream car for me. I worked hard and built my business to be able to buy it, and I loved driving it every single day until I sold it. I absolutely loved and enjoyed driving it. So I think what you're saying there as well, which is such an important point to catch, is that when you buy it for the right reasons or the wrong reasons, like what are the reasons that you're buying this thing, right?
Right. And if I would have enjoyed my Ferrari like I have other cars of mine, then I would have told you that, that was the best buy.
Okay.
But this was
which car did you enjoy?
The problem with the Ferrari.
Which was your best car?
But my best car is still probably, I have a 55 Ford Thunderbird in mint condition. That's my favorite car. I also love to drive the Prius, the Volt. These are cars that I like to drive. Here's why. But here's why like the Ferrari was bad for me is I wanted to buy to impress people, and most people either thought I was an asshole for having it, and it was expensive whether I drove it or didn't drive it. I was more worried about my car than I was myself, where to park it, where to maintain it, and it was just a pain in my ass. And now, I'm not saying every car I've had. I've owned Ferraris and Porsches and killer cars, but for the same reasons you love your car, there's other cars that I love, but Ferrari to me, it was so much money and such a pain in my butt. I consider it the worst purchase that I've ever made. My best purchase is the community centers that my wife and I have built in Africa. Awesome. We're empowering thousands and thousands of people and saving lives, especially during COVID. The community centers used for organic food and financial literacy and all types of programming for all generations in Kenya. So I think because it was the money used for the right purpose, reasons. That for me is the best I've ever.
And that's like on a completely different level. Yes, you can have joy from buying physical things, but when you know your money is going to improve and enhance people's lives who really, need it, it's on a completely different level, just on a completely different level.
My 10-year-old's bum, I didn't say a PS5 because that's what he wants me to buy.
Cool. So I actually have a question that I would love to ask you, and that is the situation that we're in now with the pandemic and COVID and all of this. How does it change your view of what it takes to reach happiness for people? Because I'm sure, as you're seeing as I am, how much strain and anxiety and stress it's brought into people's lives. And I actually think it's way harder to find that oasis of happiness right now. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so people can't find outside of themselves what they can't find inside. So there's 3 things that we have control of that not only do we have to remind ourselves we have control of, but we have to practice taking control of. And the first is our mindset. So remember, 1/3 of the people are doing better during the pandemic than were before the pandemic. 1/3 are doing the same, and 1/3 are victims. And
where are those coming from? Where are those numbers coming from? Just I'm interested to know.
They're coming from the most accurate statistic that I've ever heard, which is 99% of all statistics are made up. So that's where that comes from. I know. That's the truth. So that's where that stat's coming from. It's made up. It's a generality from my personal experience. But about 1/3 of the people about 1/3 of the people I know are doing well. 1/3 of the people are the same, and 1/3 of people are victims. And the difference is the people that are doing well truly have control of their mindset. They have a control of their heart set, the way they feel. And they also have an understanding of what I call, which you all probably won't understand, the conscious continuum, which is basically, in general terms, they think, say, do, believe. They know their personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions. They aggregate all of those into a mathematical formula in order to effectuate luck in their lives, regardless.
Okay, and now in plain language, come on, David. You literally gave me 25 minutes for this interview, and then you're throwing all these big words at me. So plain language, please.
What you pay attention to, and what you give intention to, which are the things you think, say, do, believe, etc., equal the coincidences in your life. That's the mathematical formula of luck. So pay attention to what you want. Plus intention equals
coincidence or the chain of events.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a quick one. I don't know how quick it can be, but anyway, you achieved enormous success at, say, phase 1 of your life. Then you went into phase 2 of your life, which I hear is a lot about consciousness, intention, possibly even some law of attraction in there, quantum physics, and I can hear the language coming in there. Yet you achieved success in part 1. Did you have any of that language, knowledge, philosophy, ideology, even if you weren't sort of conscious of it? Was it part of your natural makeup that also brought you to that level of success in phase 1, would you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, after studying quantum memory and physics and DNA and epigenetic layer of the DNA, I had some unactivated capabilities and also subconscious and unconscious energy that facilitated the success that I had. That's why that's why your potential is so important. So many people make the mistakes. They try to do what other people want or what's missing in their lives or what they don't want. And that's what comes to them. So I was and I see people that are unconscious, manifestors all the time. They have no idea why their life
what they're doing. Absolutely.
They carry a frequency. Okay. So I had that capability.
A couple of very quick questions. Are you a morning or night person?
Morning
or night person?
Morning. For sure, morning. By far. 4 a.m. 4 a.m.
Okay, 4 a.m. What's your biggest vice?
My biggest vice? Nicotine would be my biggest vice, but I'm not using it now.
Okay. And favorite book?
Think and Grow Rich.
That profound book that you've read.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Okay, nice. Well, we've come to the end of our interview and I've had a brilliant time talking to you. It's been fascinating. I've recognized so many of the beliefs and approaches that I believe in, but it seems like you've got it nailed down pat because you're able to do it unconsciously and then you're able to do it consciously and actually, do such amazing, beautiful, wonderful things in the world. So thank you for that. Thank you for your presence. Thanks for sharing your time on this show. What is your final message for our listeners? And then, of course, how to reach you, we'll put in the show notes and we'll have all of that. But what's your final message? What would you like to say?
Be kind to your future self and do good deeds.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
Thanks
for joining us today. This wraps up another episode of Leadership Live. Thank you for joining us today. And now let's continue the conversation. Connect with me on social media, LinkedIn, or head on to my website at daphnahorovitz.com, where you can download a free sample of my new book, Weekly Habits for Extraordinary Leaders. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And be sure to share it with a friend or on social so that I can continue to reach and support leaders just like you. Tune in next week to Leadership Live, where talented people become extraordinary leaders.